Welcome. You are watching half an hour of Demostat. My name is Zoran Panović. My guest today is Brigadier General Tommaso Vitale, Chief of the Nato Military Liaison Office in Belgrade. General Vitale, welcome to half an hour of Demostat.
Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very happy to answer your question.
General, this year marks the 15th anniversary since Serbia joined the NATO program Partnership for Peace. What has the experience been like so far, in your opinion?
First of all, let me take this opportunity to underline the meaning of the word, because at any time I have the chance to speak about partnership, I don't want to lose the opportunity to explain what partnership means. Actually, it's a very nice word, and this could be the right approach to this word, because it means something that we all know, something positive. And the fact is proved by the fact that we even do not translate in our language, because the meaning is so clear. It means something to share together, working on something together. So it's definitely, when we talk about partnership, we are talking about some nice thing. And it would be my first thought about the partnership. Partnership that we established with Serbia since 2006, when Serbia joined NATO Partnership for Peace program and the EU-Atlantic Partnership Council. And I have to say that, at least in my point of view, this story, our partnership, is a story of success. Why? Because during this period we experienced a lot of things together. We work together with commitment, with dedication, covering many fields, from the political side to the military one, including the scientific ones that should be maybe very well presented to the public opinion. NATO, for example, together with Serbia, face successfully many exercises dealing with crisis management and train together in order to better address the security challenges which can evilly affect all of us. Then NATO trained Serbian soldiers to make them ready to join some military international operation worldwide. And this is one of the reasons also Serbia is very well recognized as the main important contributor for the UN and the EU-led mission. Then NATO invested, for example, €1 million when it comes to support the Serbian effort in destroying obsolete ammunition. More than 240 tons have been destroyed so far. So it's a very important topic with the environmental consequences, for example. And also in another important program, such as the Science for Peace and Security program, Serbia made a great effort, taking part in more than 40 projects, dealing with the many issues that are very much important when we address security challenges. Example, energy, environmental security, dealing with the nuclear, radiological, bacteriological agent, counter-terrorism, cyber defense, human security. So as you can see, a lot has been done since 2006, of course with the principle that is of capital importance for both of us, that all the activities are demand-driven. So NATO is ready to support Serbian needs, Serbian priorities, Serbian policy, and of course in that sense we fully respect the Serbian state policy of military neutrality. So as you can see, there is reason to say that this is a story of success.
General Vitale, numerous NATO officials, including yourself, have emphasized that NATO, as you have just said, fully respects Serbia's decision not to join the alliance. Does that mean that NATO respects Serbia's stated policy of military neutrality?
As I said earlier, of course, this is a fundamental principle. We were very consistent and clear at any times. We, as Alliance, respect the right of every sovereign country to choose their foreign policy and to make its own security arrangement without any kind of interference. So, this is the reason NATO, consequently, respect the Serbia policy of military neutrality. And we were always clear and consistent on this. On the other hand, NATO has the so-called open door policy, which means practically that we very much welcome countries who want to join the alliance, and we respect the rights of others, not simply, to be partner and not to join alliance. But, you know, we have several examples. Serbia is one of these. We can be partner with countries that do not want to join the alliance, but we create together a robust and very well-articulated partnership, such is the case of many countries, Serbia, Austria, Finland, Switzerland, Sweden, just to mention someone. So we can simultaneously be very respectful of the policy and the right to choose the foreign policy of each country, and simultaneously work together and partner together to address security challenges.
General, I have a somewhat sensitive question. What does NATO-Serbia cooperation entail if it doesn't jeopardize military neutrality?
If I may, another example. When we talk about the partnership, we should imagine the partnership as a concept. Try to think about a basket on a table, and inside you can find a lot of skill, capacity, capability, opportunities, which NATO makes available for every partner. It's up to any partner, such as the case of Serbia, to choose inside the basket whatever they prefer in accordance to their needs. So it's up to partner, it's up to Serbia to choose pace, scope, focus, intensity of the way in which the country want to partner with NATO. Having said this, it goes without saying with this kind of partner do not jeopardize, in any case, the military neutrality of Serbia. One example is Serbia asking for the evaluation of the unit that would like to send abroad for the operational international mission, UN, EU-led, for example. So taking advantage of the skill of NATO. And on the other hand, we used to say that NATO, Serbia, or any kind of partnership is mutually beneficial. So on our side, we take advantage of the expertise of Serbia. One case, very quickly, when Serbia, with this medical military team, trained the Iraqi medical military team, NATO, as alliance, took an advantage of the expertise of Serbian official and medical team. So, addressing one goal, that is one goal of the NATO, to provide security worldwide.
General, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Serbia, Mr. Nikola Selaković, has underlined that Serbia supports and highly values the engagement of international security forces KFOR in Kosovo and Metohija in the implementation of the mandate established by United Nations Security Council Resolution 1244, which entails the provision of a stable and secure environment and freedom of movement. You contributed to this impression yourself with your engagement in Kosovo. How can we preserve this trust? Because the security situation in Kosovo is still quite fragile, and Serbs face security risks every day.
Thank you for this question, because it's very interesting and a very sensitive one, because Serbian people is always very interesting to this mission. I can say from the beginning that NATO was, is, and will be committed, fully committed, in providing safe and security environment and freedom of movement across all the Kosovo, and in fully compliance of the United Nations Security Council 1244. Furthermore, it's important to note that during the whole mission, Serbia NATO and KFOR troops establish a very, very good link and relation with Serbian forces. And this kind of cooperation is very much appreciated because it can create mutual trust and understanding. And also the two leaders, KFOR from one side and the Serbian chief of defense from the other, establish direct channel of communication. One more point. We are fully committed also in providing the security of the cultural and historical and religious site, Visoki, the Chani monastery, for example. And this is something very important for us. When it comes to the security in the region, as recently assessed by KFOR Command and very recently by KFOR, commander of KFOR, the situation remains secure under the perspective of security, freedom of movement, and security environment. So there is no reason to be afraid or worried about the situation there. And furthermore, KFOR established very close link with the other, KFOR is third responder, as you know, with the other two institutions, assuring with very well established mechanism the capacity to intervene in any part of the Kosovo according to the situation. And one last point, KFOR is also pay very much attention also in dealing and establish close link with the local community. So putting very much attention on their need wherever. We are talking about northern Kosovo or Kosovo as a whole. So in doing this, KFOR is managing the situation very well, and there are no reason to be worried under a security perspective.
How can we renew and improve old alliances between Serbia and important NATO member states and overcome the trauma of the 1999 NATO bombing of Serbia? Because there are forces in Serbia that want to establish the NATO aggression as a mainstay of the new Serbian identity, which would be anti-Western. That fundamentally conflicts with the tradition of Serbia, which has a long history of alliances with many NATO countries, including your own Italy.
In my opinion, these represent one of the biggest challenges. So the ability to deliver the more factual message about the alliance, its principle, its democratic value. I am very well aware that NATO is still controversial in this country and is still painful memory for many people, especially for those who lost their loved one. But let me reiterate one more time that NATO SecGen offers its condolences to the family of those who lost their loved one. And is it clear that we mustn't forget what's happened, but also we have to move forward. And this is exactly what we are doing, and people and public opinion should be very much aware of this. This is what we are doing when we are partnering together, because our partnering is really on solid ground and is the only way, way ahead to work together for a better future, to move forward, to create security, which means fundamentally prosperity for the region. NATO has only one objective. It is very clear in the region. Western Balkans represent for NATO an important and geostrategic region. And this was reaffirmed one more time, loud and clear, at the statement, at the final, the latest Brussels summit where head of state of government in the official declaration state that this is a very important region, and NATO is very much committed also throughout the KFOR mission.
General Vitale, many Serbian citizens have a negative opinion when we say NATO, but when we separate NATO into its members, Serbian citizens think very positively about most of them, starting from your homeland Italy, Spain, France. They highly value Germany. How do we align that to make them realize that NATO is not some abstract organization, but an alliance of individual countries with which Serbia has very real relations, from the economy through the diaspora to military cooperation?
This is the reason why to make Serbian people very much aware of what NATO is represent a challenge, with an enterprise in which we should feel, all of us, committed in delivering the most factual message. I am fully aware of what NATO is, and I told you before, but NATO is represented by 30 democracies. NATO is my country, my homeland. Together with Germany, for example, we are the two biggest partners, economically speaking, of Serbia, or many other countries, Norway, when Secretary General comes from, or Greece, your friend and neighbor. So many countries which contribute to peace and stability across the world. The fact that I realized that the public opinion is not very much aware of the magnitude and the importance and of our partnership. Since we are cooperating today, represent the 15th anniversary. So since 2006, we are cooperating together, and there is still a considerable information gap. And we are very much willing in deal with the media outlet. And this is one opportunity, for example, to talk about what NATO is, trying to better address all topic NATO related. And this is a challenge, I recognize, but we are very much committed on this, and we pay very much attention to the public opinion, because their point of view is fundamental for us, and we address all our activity having in mind what could be the perception of public opinion. So I would like to be confident for the future, and this would be my message to Serbian citizens. Do not judge before do not know exactly what we are.
General, your biography is very interesting. You were born in 1963 in the Italian island of Ischia in the Gulf of Naples. You completed the military academy in Modena. During your impressive career, among other things, you served in the defense staff of the Italian army in KFOR, as operations group commander in Albania and Iraq. How does your experience in Serbia compare to the previous experiences in your career? Was Serbia more difficult or easier, more or less inspiring?
Let me first say that when I take a look to my curriculum, I realize that I'm becoming older. And this is the first reaction to what you said. Turning seriously, I am very grateful to my authority, because during these 40 very exciting years, I had the opportunity to have so diversified, very interesting experiences. This is quite different, and I'm very happy and very proud to represent NATO in this country. Because being a soldier, I have a sort of approach, but the way in which many topics dealing with political, diplomatic, media and military issue must be addressed, must be tackled, imply that you have to enlarge your capacity. So in a way, during these 2 very interesting years, and which I'm very proud of this, I experienced the capacity and the understanding how complex could be the approach of this very important issue.
In your career, and now in Serbia, do you feel more like a general or a diplomat? Or are these two inseparable?
are definitely inseparable because represent the two sides of one coin. And this brings me to stress one important thing, because I realize that sometimes it's not very well understood. NATO is a political military organization. So NATO is the capacity to train Serbian soldiers and to send soldiers everywhere in the world to preserve peace and stability. But NATO is also the capacity to have a political approach and to deal in a diplomatic and political way to several issues which affected our world. And actually, this year, a very ambitious agenda, the so-called NATO 2030 agenda, has been adopted at the Brussels summit, dealing with many important topics, and for the first time, as you can imagine, addressing also the climate change and the implication of climate change. So an apparently military organization, which is not, because NATO is both political and military, is also making itself able to deal with such important issue which represent the future of our world.
General, we live in turbulent times. Many say history is speeding up. How do you see the area of once unified Yugoslavia, which you once saw as a single country, and now as a confusing region of former Yugoslavia, where there are many countries in a small space, of which some are NATO members, and some are not even absolutely defined in terms of their boundaries? So, how sustainable is such a neurotic area in Europe? When will it somehow be pacified? Because there is a psychological phenomenon going on. More and more people see NATO as one of the few guarantees that war will not break out again here. We recently saw the high-level US negotiator, Mr. Escobar, say, "We are committed that there will not be a war in Bosnia," which sounds quite comforting given the traumatic history of this area.
As I said earlier, NATO, along with all its member countries, is security provider across the world. And when it comes to the assessment of the whole region, as you said, there are many countries neighboring Serbia, which are members of EU, NATO, or both organizations at the same time. Why? Because they choose, as a sovereign country, their foreign policy. They made their policy, they made their choice in foreign policy, and the same is applicable to Serbia. Serbia, on its side, decided, according to the fact that he has the right to make their policy, decide to boost, to create a new partnership with NATO, which is very much important. So being a member of the same family is not mandatory, because otherwise it would mean an imposition. So any country has the right to decide which, I would say, family, referring to EU, which is one of the strategic priority of Serbia, or NATO, if they want to join or not. So in this sense, I can assess the Western Balkans as a safe region, because the choice in foreign policy are in the direction of bringing peace, security, and stability. So I'm very much in line with what Mr. Escobar said. And the fact that we are proceeding so well in our partnership with no interruption, with no misunderstanding, and the fact that you, as a country, many times recognized that NATO never imposed anything on anyone, but was always respectful of the sovereign decision of any country, represent a good proof of this. So any country will choose their policy and their strategy, and it seems to me that we are moving in a very right direction.
It's interesting that since the wars of the 90s in former Yugoslavia ended, the countries in the region haven't yet succeeded in building an autonomous mechanism for conflict prevention and pacification on their own. So NATO has remained as a guarantee that this ugly past will not reoccur. You are a diplomat and a general, but also a bit of a social psychologist. So how important is the psyche of the people for connecting this, to realize that sustainable peace is maybe impossible without this kind of umbrella and guarantee, although that may appear pessimistic and depressing for the countries in the region?
I like to be more positive in the sense that if you think about NATO and Serbia separately, we are thinking about two neighbors, because many countries neighboring Serbia are NATO members country. And where we are neighboring, we partner together dealing with the security issue, but not only, with a lot of issues related to the security as a whole. There is a reason to stay in a comfortable mood more than in a negative one. And this is something must, if I may, putting the hat of a communicator, which doesn't belong to me because I'm general. But this is something we must deliver to the public opinion. The fact that all we are doing independently from what we are, member, partner, are at any time in the direction of dealing with security challenges, human security, climate change. So a lot of topics which brings security and which bring prosperity. So if the paradigm, the equation, security means prosperity, will be delivered in the factual way to the public opinion, I'm quite confident that especially the young generation will appreciate this and will better understand our job.
General, how can we make the connection that cooperation with NATO also means having a better economy? That economic cooperation with many countries, cooperation in education, democracy, and many other aspects not related to the military is a guarantee.
I think that the approach to your thought should be slightly different. Military or not military are all the same, because everything now in the modern world is interconnected. And if we examine the magnitude and the different tools, there are so many, of our partnership, we can realize that addressing this, working on this all together make an added value, which means security and prosperity. Example, if we deal with the reform of the defense institution, with the integrity, transparency, accountability, what is the result? Practically speaking, the result is you can reduce the level of corruption, which means to save money, which means prosperity. You can use resources in different ways. If you address the security issue and related issue in the environmental and the energy security, you can take the benefit of the new performance, which are made in conjunction, in synergy, all together. But I can quote a local example to you, just to mention that everything means security today, and security automatically means prosperity and stability.
General, people in Serbia are very fond of Italian culture, of Italy as a country, especially football. You are a Milan fan, is that correct? Many people here don't know that.
Indeed. Actually, I think that there are a lot of similarity between our two countries. We are very much close. After 2 years, I realized something like that. And one of the things that which unites ourselves is the passion for football. I am Milan supporter, and maybe you should remind the famous match in Maracanã in Belgrade with Crvena Zvezda, interrupted by the fog. And I very much hope that in the future, with Red Star, with Partizan, we will have the opportunity to make, together with Milan, a very important match for high-level competition. I think it will be fascinating. And maybe it will offer to me the opportunity to come back to Belgrade, which is indeed a city that I like very much.
Did NATO have a mechanism to clear the fog from the stadium then?
I can work on it.
General Vitale, thank you very much for being a guest of Half an Hour of Demostat. I wish you success in your further work.
Hvala puno. Doviđenja.
Dear viewers, this was Half an Hour of Demostat. Thank you for watching.